Hello and welcome to the Coronby Chronicles. This is a solo Minecraft survival series in which I, Alfred R.J Crowdus, or Alfie for short, will set out to build a beautiful city and form a new colony named Coronby. There will be trials and tribulations along the way, and all of the content will be streamed on my Twitch channel below. Oh, and by the way, I make music too, also linked below. With that, let's get into the video. Greetings to all. My name is Alfred Roberts Jones Crowdus, or better known as Alfie. And today we have big plans to finish the government office. However, with the sunset, I decided it was best to go to bed. Back the next day smelting more sandstone, so I had enough resources to try and finish it before immediately getting back to work on building the government office. And it was whilst I was building that I realized that I had expended so much coal smelting the sandstone that I was going to have to go and get more. Which meant something I'd been putting off for some time, which was exploring one of the many ravines in the local area. Due to the monsters that happen to get out at night, I have been putting this off for some time. So I started simple, somewhere close to the light and somewhere where I could easily escape from, and collected all the coal there. However, as I looked further down, I spotted something moving down in the darkness that I'd never seen before.
Put in the book once I get out of here. Well, like many things, I'm just gonna stay over here. You can stay over there, and all will be good. Cool. I'm over here now. That's one thing I'm still dumbfounded by, in a sense.
I tried to draw my attention away from it by continuing to collect more coal. However, it still nagged me as I collected everything. But what better way to put off that thought than checking on the chickens?
No, you don't. Not this time.
After that, it was back to making more iron tools with the last bit of iron I had left, whilst also tending to the farm, which had fully grown by this point, and I collected a lot of wheat. As the sun set, I decided to quickly document what I had spotted, as although it was from a distance, I still got a good view of what it looked like, and again wanted to make sure that everything was well documented. The next day, it was heading off back to collect more sand and sandstone. Realizing I had depleted most of the first island, I decided to start excavating on the second sand island off the coast. However, it started raining. Rain or shine, it simply doesn't stop me. It is quite the labor of love. However, I did get to see a turtle, which always makes it better. Yet, I continue digging and excavating before heading back to keep working on the government office. With newfound smooth sandstone in hand, I quickly got back to work building up the other side of the walls and the subsequent window frames. However, I realized I'm going to need quite a bit of oak wood for the floor and for the other levels. However, I decided that was tomorrow's job rather than tonight's, so I quickly went home and went to bed. The next morning, I was back at work digging out all of the dirt on the floor to make room for the floorboards, something I had mildly been putting off, knowing that it was going to cost a fair bit, as it did end up costing my shovel. However, by the end of the day, I was done and ready to build more. So the next day, that's exactly what I did, filling in walls, leaving gaps for windows, and I started experimenting with the roof. I started with a single slab tiled roof, then went for the double, and then ultimately preferring the single again. So I went off, gathering the birch, and kept building on the roof. Then started on the other side, before realizing that it was nighttime again, and I finally spotted what that green thing was.
I do not like how this is looking. Yeah, that is definitely something dead.
After that, I could sleep a little easy that night. The next morning, I was putting in more birch support beams as I realized it would really add a bit more of a touch to the building. It took all day, but I did get to enjoy the sunset at night. The next day, I was starting to build the stairs for the second level in which the meeting room will be held. It took quite a few tries before I finally managed to get these stairs done in a way that I was happy with, and I even added some birch support beams before repeating it on the other side. And with that, the stairs were done and I could start building the second floor. It did take a lot more resources though, so to distract myself, I went back to the chickens.
Standing a little too close to the gate, senors. Move, please. Scooch. Shoo. Go that way. Good.
After that, it was back home to get some rest for the new day. The next day, back at work again, filling in the rest of the floorboards for the upper level. Then, back to work on the roof. Now, the middle part went through a few iterations, as you can see, both flat and slabbed roof, but I decided and I worked all night on it to go with stairs. However, that night I spotted a few more uglies that I didn't want to deal with, which shot at me before I went to bed.
Yeah, what do I do now? He's got bow and arrow and... No. Oh.
After successfully surviving waking up in the morning, it was back to work on the office. However, that thing decided to show up again. I quickly killed it and... I will be honest, I was not expecting gunpowder. But with that cleared, I went back to gathering resources, specifically birch, in order to finish the roof, whilst also checking on the chooks.
The eggs first. I should probably start doing something with the eggs. Alright, yeah.
I also decided to finally make my first batch of bread with the wheat I had harvested from my little farm. And with that, I went to bed. Bright and early next morning, until it started raining, I was back at work on the roof, because why would I be doing anything else? I decided that to make it proper, I should also add another birch support beam up the top. And with quite some work, even in the rain, I managed to finish the roof. Then I quickly ducked inside so I could light up the place and make sure that no creepies spawned in there. I was not dealing with any skeletons or anything of the sort in my government office. Whilst also making sure that it was nice, well lit, and also symmetrical. Later on, I started putting upside down stairs just to really give a bit more detail to the roof, and I went to bed. The next morning I planted birch saplings as I'd realised that I hadn't done that yet, and I thought it would be a nice way to commemorate the building of the office before heading off to get more sand. However, I happened to spot this.
No! Are you stuck, sir? Do you need a hand, or are you okay? Because I feel like this current isn't helping you. It's a bit easy for you to access. There we go.
After saving good old Mr. Turtle, it was back to collecting as much sand and sandstone as possible, before turning back to keep working on the office. Quickly put in the sandstone with my newfound abundance of coal, and quickly stripped all of the bark off of the support beams I'd left inside the office. Before my next sand and sandstone expedition, I realized that the original 2 sand islands that were off the coast of Coronby, one of them was starting to fade out of existence because of my need of sand and sandstone, so I quickly decided to document historically the fact that there were 2 sand islands before I left. Despite my writings, I was immediately heading back to the islands for more sand and sandstone. However, I did start to excavate somewhere nearby rather than the actual island itself. As I was collecting sand, I happened to spot something that caught my eye off in the distance. It seemed like some form of waterfall. However, the substance was clearly molten lava. Rightfully taken aback, I decided to document what I had spotted, and although I was there for work intentions, I quite quickly got distracted. As I looked around, I happened upon a valley with some very interesting rock formations, particularly one that looked like a broken archway of sorts. It was an incredibly interesting place to find. And in very Alfred R.J Crowdus fashion, I simply had to document everything I found here and discuss the very interesting formations, whether it be some form of civilization gone by or just incredibly strange natural formations. I just simply had to document it. As always, I went back to collecting sand and as much sandstone as I could before heading back home and getting to bed for the night. Immediately the next morning, it was back to work on the upstairs meeting area and the office downstairs, but I realised I yet again needed more sandstone. So I set sail in search of more sand and sandstone. However, whilst I was out exploring, I spotted something off in the distance.
Things are burning over there. Oh, I'm gonna stay over here for the time.
As I closed in, I discovered some sort of ancient ruin. I couldn't exactly gauge what it could have been, but it was a ruin nonetheless, which is evidence of some form of civilization being here.
Ow.
I was beyond fascinated and left with more questions than answers. Despite what I had seen, I was still there to collect sand and sandstone, so I gathered just as much as I could before heading off and returning back home. Then just some quick light work on the office. After debating on what door to use, I ended up settling on a large oak door.
Now, isn't that lovely?
Then I promptly had to fix up the other side of the door as it looked a bit odd from the other side. Immediately after that, it was back to work establishing the walls for the governor's office. However, when I woke up the next day, I was greeted by some familiar friends. Whoever these people are had returned, and I was not looking for trouble, so I left immediately. But upon my return, I noticed...
Okay. So far, so good. Okay. They go down here like last time. No. Okay. Alright. Good.
After a little fix-up,
There we go.
I decided to put signs above the doors of both offices. And as I was doing this, I decided to make it a little bit more fancy.
There we go. Look it up. Isn't that nice?
After that, it was off to find new wood for the furniture to furnish the building. Now, I sailed in a direction that I'd only gone past by and seen from a distance, and I found this lovely, lush jungle. Just incredibly beautiful, and the trees just were incredible. I was definitely considering using jungle wood, However, as I approached the shore, I noticed something a bit more familiar to me and decided to use that instead. What we have here is dark oak. It is pretty prominent back home in Illyria, and so I decided that what better than to have a government office decorated with dark oak wood furniture. So I immediately sailed back. Had to make the fences for the windows, as I still haven't figured out this whole glass making shtick yet. And the cartography table, which was going to be put in the surveyor's office. Went around filling in all of the windows with my new fences, but then realised quite quickly I didn't have enough, so I had to run and get more. However, as I was out hunting for trees, I spotted something.
Hello. Gosh, put the axe away. Hello. Is it like a type of dog? Oh, if only I could keep you.
As excited as I was to find something that I could tame as a pet, I still was out to get birch, and I quickly realised why getting birch this late was a bad idea.
Oh, Jesus, that's exactly why.
I went back to kill it, but then also quite promptly learned what those green things really do.
Back up. Ow. Oh my Jesus. Oh my God. Well, I don't suppose I learned what the green things do. I don't want to deal with these for the rest of the night. So, good night, everyone.
The second I woke up, I immediately started documenting what I had seen that night. As a history maker, it's important that I write down as much as I can, but in this instance, it's also very important for safety in case anyone comes here and happens to spot one of these, whether it be in a cave whilst mining, or in any rare circumstance like last night where it's out in the open. After that, it was back to filling in the windows and finishing that job. Then starting to furnish the offices, starting with the surveyor's office, as I had the cartography table. I decided to keep the design simple: 2 chairs, a desk, and a chest. Once I had finished that, I immediately replicated it in the governor's office before lighting the place. Next on the to-do list was the reception desk, surprisingly. I decided to keep it as a bit of a semicircle table with a chair in the middle. However, I realised that I could put a sneaky chest there and a trapdoor for someone to use to enter and exit. Then, the meeting room. This one took by far the longest, as I had to really figure out the dimensions of the table, but eventually I got it. Starting with a nice large table with an impromptu torch candle, and then all of the chairs. And with that, after a bit of cleanup, it was done. It took a lot of work to get it done, but as we can see, you walk in, beautiful, beautiful room, the receptionist's office, the surveyor's office with its chest and its simple 2-chair desk setup. Then an immediate jaunt over to the governor's office, which is also very similarly designed. And then, once I properly establish some form of council or something like that, the meeting office where we can meet and attend public affairs. Then, obviously much to my namesake, I decided to document and proudly celebrate the fact that I had finally completed the government office. And what a view it was at sunset. And with that, this has been Alfred R.J Crowdus, and I'll see you in the next one.